The alien widow stayed for a night. Her seductive secrets left him breathless. The unexpected guest, the warning lights of Helios 12, cast crimson shadows across Kieran Voss's tired face as he adjusted the atmospheric regulators. The mining station, perched on the edge of the Cygnus asteroid belt, wasn't designed for comfort, just functionality and survival. 3 years into his 5-year contract with Astral Mining Corporation, Kieran had grown accustomed to the hollow sounds of machinery and the endless silence of space. "System stabilization complete," announced the station's AI in its flat, emotionless tone. "Cosmic storm approaching. Estimated duration, 26 hours. Kieran sighed, running his fingers through his dark, unkempt hair. Another storm meant communications blackout and more time alone with his thoughts, something he'd been avoiding since leaving Earth. "Acknowledged, Astra. Lock down the external platforms and—" The proximity alarm cut him off, its urgent wail echoing through the station's metal corridors. "Unidentified vessel approaching," Astra reported. "Class, personal transport. Origin, unknown." Kieran frowned, moving quickly to the observation deck. No one was scheduled to arrive for another 2 months with supplies. Through the reinforced viewport, he spotted a sleek ship, its design unlike anything in the corporate fleet, gliding toward the emergency docking bay. Astra opened communication channels. Static filled the speakers before a melodic voice broke through. "Mining station, this is transport vessel Luminara requesting emergency docking. My navigation systems are failing in the approaching storm. I require shelter." Something about the voice sent an unexpected shiver down Kieran's spine. "Granted. Use Bay 3. I'll meet you there." 15 minutes later, Kieran stood at the airlock, pulse quickening as the seals hissed open. The figure that emerged stole his breath more effectively than any decompression ever could. She was tall and willowy, with skin the color of twilight violet that seemed to shimmer subtly in the harsh station lighting. Her eyes were large and luminous, irises swirling with patterns like nebulae. A silver circlet adorned her head, contrasting with the cascade of what appeared to be hair but moved more like liquid shadow. "I am Zara," she said, her voice carrying the same musical quality it had over the comm. "I offer my gratitude for your hospitality, station keeper." Kieran realized he was staring and quickly composed himself. "Kieran Voss. I'm the only one here. Helios 12 is automated mostly." Zara tilted her head slightly. "You exist here alone?" "By choice," he replied, perhaps too quickly. "The company pays triple for solitary posts." As he led her through the station's utilitarian corridors, he noticed how gracefully she moved, as if the station's artificial gravity affected her differently. Her simple attire, a fitted bodysuit of material that resembled brushed silver, accentuated her slender form. "The storm will trap us here for at least a day," Kieran explained, showing her to the station's small communal area. "You're welcome to wait it out." "A single night's refuge is all I require," she said, her gaze moving around the room, taking in the sparse furnishings and the viewport showing the approaching cosmic disturbance. "I am en route to the Meridian system." "That's contested space," Kieran remarked, surprised. "Not many civilians travel there willingly." A subtle change passed over Zara's features, something like sorrow, quickly masked. "I am not traveling for pleasure, Mr. Voss. I journey to fulfill an obligation to my late mate." The word mate resonated strangely in the room, reminding Kieran of the vast cultural differences between them. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said, meaning it. Zara's fingers, delicate and graceful, briefly touched the circlet on her head. "The concept of loss differs among my people, but I appreciate your sentiment." As the cosmic storm began to rage, outside battering the station with particles and radiation, Kieran found himself preparing a meal for two for the first time in years. The simple act of sharing space with another sentient being felt foreign, almost intrusive. Yet as Zara accepted the offered sustenance with curious interest, asking thoughtful questions about human customs and station life, Kieran felt something, long dormant, stirring within him, a hunger not for food but for connection. "Tell me," she asked, her voice softening as the station lights dimmed to simulate evening. Why does a man choose solitude among the stars when your world is so full of others like yourself? The question hung between them like a weightless object. And for the first time in 3 years, Kieran considered what it might mean to answer honestly. A veiled histories, the station's night cycle had begun, dimming the harsh industrial lighting to a soft amber glow. Kieran found himself seated across from Zara in the small observation lounge, the cosmic storm creating a mesmerizing light show against the reinforced viewport shields. I came to Helios 12 after my research partnership dissolved. Kieran finally answered her question, surprising himself with his candor. Professionally and personally. Zara's luminous eyes studied him with quiet intensity. The two were connected? Dr. Elena Reeves, he said, the name still carrying weight after 3 years. We were developing terraforming algorithms for marginal worlds. When the relationship ended, so did our research. The corporation bought my algorithms, and I bought my solitude. You fled, Zara observed without judgment. Kieran smiled ruefully. I prefer strategically relocated. He took a sip of his synthesized coffee. Your turn. What obligation brings a widowed traveler through a storm into contested space? Something. Subtle shifted in Zara's posture, a barely perceptible tensing. The patterns within her eyes seemed to swirl faster. My mate Seren was an envoy of peaceful exchange between my world, Lysithea, and the systems beyond. Her slender fingers traced patterns on the table's surface. He died during negotiations with the Meridian Coalition, a diplomatic mission that ended in violence. Kieran leaned forward. I heard about that incident. The coalition blamed extremists, but there were rumors. There are always rumors when powerful interests are threatened, Zara said softly. Soren discovered something during his mission. Information, embedded in an artifact that certain factions would destroy to keep hidden. The storm outside intensified, particles striking the station's shields with luminous bursts. Shadows danced across Zara's violet features, highlighting the subtle, shimmering quality of her skin. Before he died, Soren transferred the artifact's encryption key to me through our bond link, she continued. I carry it within me, not in technology that can be scanned or stolen, but encoded in my very essence. That's why you travel alone, Kieran realized. A diplomatic ship would be searched. Zara nodded. The artifact contains evidence of an ancient mining operation, one that used sentient beings as resources. The corporations involved have evolved into today's powers, including your employers. The revelation hung in the air between them. Outside, the storm raged with increased ferocity, as if nature itself responded to the weight of her words. The past never stays buried in space, Kieran murmured, not when there's profit in excavating it. Or justice, Zara countered, her voice taking on a resonant quality that seemed to vibrate through the room. Soren believed in reconciliation over retribution, but truth must precede healing. Kieran felt a strange kinship forming, both of them carrying burdens shaped by others' choices. Astra, he called to the station AI. Security protocol override. Disable routine transmission logs until further notice. Warning, this action violates corporate policy, the AI responded tonelessly. Override accepted, Kieran confirmed, meeting Zara's surprised gaze. Whatever happens on Helios 12 tonight stays between us. A small smile formed on Zara's lips. An unexpected alliance, Mr. Voss? Kieran, he corrected, and let's call it a mutual recognition. Sometimes the most meaningful connections form in the spaces between worlds. As the night cycle progressed, they shared more stories. Zara speaking of Lysithea's crystal forests and floating academies where she had studied xenolinguistics before meeting Seren. Kieran describing Earth's receding shorelines and the vertical farms that had replaced traditional agriculture. Their conversation flowed more easily with each passing hour, the initial strangeness of their differences fading into fascinating variations on shared experiences, loss, purpose, the search for meaning in vast, indifferent spaces. On my world, Zara said as she gracefully rose from her seat, moving toward the viewport, We have a concept called Nvali, the resonance between souls that transcends physical form. Kieran watched as she stood silhouetted against the storm's illumination. Does it translate to human experience? Perhaps we'll discover that answer, she replied, turning to face him with an expression of gentle curiosity. The night is still young, and the storm has hours yet to run its course. Luminous connection, may I show you something? Zara asked, extending her hand toward Kieran. A form of communication my people share only with those we trust. The station hummed quietly around them, the cosmic storm creating a cocoon of isolation from the rest of the universe. Kieran hesitated only briefly before placing his hand in hers. Her skin felt warmer than he expected, with a subtle texture like velvet over satin. The moment their palms touched, the luminous patterns in her eyes intensified, and similar patterns began to appear beneath her skin. Intricate networks of light tracing what might have been neural pathways or circulatory systems, but far more complex. What's happening? Kieran whispered, fascinated rather than frightened. Bioluminescent communion, Zara explained, her voice taking on a resonant quality. My people evolved this ability to share emotions and memories directly. Words are imprecise carriers of experience. The light patterns traveled from her arm to where their hands connected, then, impossibly, began to appear on Kieran's skin, faint at first, then strengthening as they climbed toward his shoulder. With the light came sensation, not intrusive, but like gentle waves lapping at the shores of his consciousness. Emotions not his own bloomed in his mind. Wonder at seeing Earth's oceans from orbit through Lysithian eyes, the profound connection Zara had shared with Soren, the bittersweet pride she felt carrying forward his final mission. This is incredible, Kieran breathed, his free hand reaching up to touch the patterns now illuminating his forearm. I can feel what you feel. Only what I choose to share, Zara clarified, stepping closer. And only the emotions, not thoughts. But yes, this is how we truly know one another. The luminescence bathed the observation lounge in a soft purple-blue glow, creating a space that seemed to exist outside normal reality. Outside, the cosmic storm raged, but within their bubble of light, time seemed to slow. Can you share more? Kieran asked, surprising himself with his eagerness. After years of self-imposed isolation, this profound connection felt like water to a man dying of thirst. Zara's free hand lifted to his face, fingers tracing his jawline with delicate precision. Where she touched, the patterns followed, creating a network of light across his skin. Are you certain? To my people, this level of communion is intimate. Their eyes met, and Kieran realized the walls he had built around himself since leaving Earth were dissolving in her luminous presence. I'm certain. She placed her palm against his chest over his heart. The patterns intensified, and with them came a cascade of emotional impressions. The exhilaration of soaring through Lysithia's atmosphere on gossamer wings. The profound solemnity of morning rituals where memories were shared among hundreds. The tentative hope Zara felt in this moment. Connecting with someone new after believing that part of her had died with Soren. Without conscious thought, Kieran found his arms encircling her waist, drawing her closer. The patterns where their bodies touched grew brighter, merging into intricate mandalas of shared experience. I never imagined, he began. Nor I, she whispered, her face inches from his. Communion with other species is rare, usually requiring years of practice. This ease between us is unprecedented. The light between them pulsed with their accelerating heartbeats. Kieran became aware of the subtle scent of her, something like ozone after rainfall, yet sweetly unfamiliar. Her hands slid up his arms, leaving trails of luminescence in their wake. What does it mean? He asked, his voice husky with emotion not entirely his own. It means our essence recognizes something in each other, a complementary frequency. Zara's eyes, now brilliantly illuminated, searched his. Nirvali, the resonance I spoke of. The patterns flowing between them shifted from blue-purple to a warmer gold, reflecting a change in the emotional current. What began as curiosity and trust was evolving into something more primal, more urgent. Kieran felt himself trembling slightly, overwhelmed by the dual sensations of his own desire and echoes of Zara's reciprocal feelings. A feedback loop of growing intensity. If you wish to stop, she began. I don't, he interrupted, one hand moving to cradle the back of her head, fingers threading through her liquid shadow hair. The sensation was electric, sending new patterns cascading down his arm. Their lips met, and the world exploded into light. The kiss deepened, and with it, the luminous connection between them intensified. The boundaries between their separate experiences began to blur. Pleasure reflected and amplified between them. Each sensation doubled and redoubled in a spiral of shared feeling. Zara made a sound somewhere between a sigh and a melody, her body arching against his as the patterns of light encompassed them both completely. I never knew it could be like this, Kieran breathed against her neck, feeling the vibration of his words creating new patterns of light where his lips touched her skin. Neither did I, Zara whispered, her hands guiding his to the seam of her silvery attire. Let us discover more of this connection together. As the storm reached its peak intensity outside the station, inside, two beings from distant worlds found themselves creating a new kind of cosmic phenomenon, one born of connection rather than collision. Whispered Confessions Morning. On Helios 12 was an artificial construct, simply a gradual brightening of lights and a shift in temperature, yet Kieran awoke with a sense of natural renewal he hadn't experienced in years. The storm outside had subsided to a gentle cosmic rain, particles drifting against the viewport like luminescent snow. Beside him on the narrow bunk, Zara lay curled against his side, her violet skin still occasionally pulsing with faint patterns of light that synchronized with her breathing. The events of the night replayed in his mind, their bodies entwined, the luminescence building to blinding intensity as they moved together, boundaries dissolving until he couldn't tell where his pleasure ended and hers began. You're thinking very loudly, Zara murmured without opening her eyes, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Kieran chuckled softly. Can you read minds now too? No, she said, her eyes opening to reveal those swirling nebulae. But after communion, a residual connection remains. I sense emotional patterns rather than thoughts. Her slender fingers traced lazy circles on his chest. You feel I conflicted. He couldn't deny it. What had happened between them transcended anything he'd experienced with another being. Yet morning brought reality with its harsh light. Your mission, he said simply. Zara nodded, sitting up gracefully, the station's sheet pooling around her waist. I must reach Meridian Prime within 3 cycles to meet my contact. She studied his face. You're considering something dangerous. Let me come with you, Kieran said, the words escaping before he could analyze them. I have access codes, corporate credentials. I could help you navigate the security checkpoints. Surprise registered in her luminous eyes. You would risk everything, your contract, possibly your life, for a cause not your own? For someone you've known less than a day? Kieran sat up, taking her hands in his. No luminous patterns appeared without her initiating them, but he felt the connection between them nonetheless. What happened between us last night? It wasn't just physical, was it? No, she admitted softly. Then Vali communion reveals true nature. Deception is impossible in that state. What we shared was genuine. Then I'm not risking everything for a stranger, he insisted. I'm choosing to help someone He hesitated, lacking the right word in his vocabulary. Soul shadow, Zara supplied. In my language, what forms between resonant beings who have shared communion. Kieran nodded. My soul shadow, then. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his in a gesture somehow more intimate than their physical joining had been. There is something I must confess, she whispered. Something I didn't reveal about my journey. Kieran waited. His breath caught in his throat. The artifact's information will implicate not just historical figures but current corporate leaders, she explained, including the director of your Astral Mining Corporation. Once revealed, there will be no safe haven for those associated with these entities. The implications sank in. Kieran would be not just breaking his contract, but burning every professional bridge he had ever built. I understand, he said finally. Do you? Zara pulled back to look directly into his eyes. This isn't just about corporate malfeasance. The artifact proves these companies have continued the practice in remote systems, using sentient beings as biological mining tools, altering their genetic structure to process rare elements. Then she couldn't finish. Anger flashed through Kieran. Then I have even more reason to help. What's the point of building algorithms to terraform new worlds if we're going to corrupt them with the same exploitation? Zara's eyes widened slightly. You surprise me, Kieran Voss. Most beings cling to security, even when it's built on others' suffering. Maybe I needed something worth risking security for, he replied. Stroking her cheek, she turned her face to kiss his palm. There's something else. Her voice grew softer. Last night, when our communion reached its peak, a transfer occurred that I didn't anticipate. Part of the encryption key now resides within you. What? Kieran stared at her in shock. How is that possible? The key isn't data as your technology understands it, Zara explained. It's a neurological pattern, designed to be stored in living memory and accessed only through specific mental states. During our most intense connection, the pattern naturally sought balance between us. The implications settled over him. So now they'll be hunting us both. Yes, she acknowledged. I cannot ask you to. He silenced her with a gentle kiss. You're not asking. I'm choosing. His decision crystallized with surprising clarity. Astra, he called to the station AI. Prepare departure protocols. Authorization Voss Delta 9. Preparing departure protocols, the AI confirmed. Warning. Departure before contract completion will result in forfeiture of completion bonuses and may impact future employment opportunities. Kieran laughed, a genuine sound that echoed through the small chamber. I think that's the least of our concerns now. He turned back to Zara, suddenly serious. I don't know what's waiting for us out there, but whatever it is, we face it together. Zara's skin began to glow with patterns he now recognized as joy mixed with determination. Together, she agreed, sealing the pact with another kiss that sparked new luminescence between them. As they prepared to leave the station that had been Kieran's solitary home for 3 years, he felt strangely unburdened. The prospect of danger ahead couldn't diminish the certainty that had formed in the night. Some connections were worth any risk. Echoes in the stars. The approach to Meridian Prime was more heavily guarded than either of them had anticipated. 3 corporate security vessels flanked the main transit corridor, scanning each incoming ship with penetrating beams that would detect any anomalies. They know, Zara whispered from the co-pilot's seat of Kieran's small transport vessel, a benefit of his station manager position that he'd never expected to use. Someone must have tracked my ship to your station. Kieran's hands moved steadily over the controls, his expression focused. Then we changed the plan. Astra, upload emergency protocol quantum shift. The ship's systems hummed as the AI integrated the algorithm Kieran had secretly developed during his years of isolation. Not for the corporation, but for himself. A contingency born of paranoia that now seemed prophetic. What are you doing? Zara asked, watching as the ship's identification signature began to fluctuate. Creating digital noise, he explained.
The algorithm generates thousands of false identification patterns simultaneously.
To their scanners, we'll look like a sensor malfunction rather than a ship. Zara's eyes widened. Brilliant. But we'll still need to dock somewhere to reach my contact. The old mining auxiliary station, Kieran suggested. Abandoned after the initial asteroid extraction, but the docking mechanisms should still function. It's technically within Meridian Prime's orbit but outside regular patrol routes. As their ship slipped past the security vessels, registering, only as a momentary glitch in the monitoring systems, Kieran felt a strange calm. For years he had hidden from connection, buried himself in solitude and routine. Now racing toward danger with a being from another world, he felt more alive than he had since his earliest days of discovery. The abandoned station loomed before them, a skeletal structure half embedded in a small asteroid. Kieran guided their vessel into a maintenance dock, powering down to minimal systems once the airlock sealed. We have 4 hours before your contact expects you at the original location, he said, checking the chronometer. Can you get a message to them? Zara nodded, retrieving a small device from her pack. This communicator uses quantum entanglement, untraceable and instantaneous. Her fingers, which Kieran now knew to be remarkably dexterous, danced across its surface. Message sent. Zoril will meet us here instead. They waited in tense silence, the abandoned station creaking occasionally as its orbit carried it through temperature variations. Zara's hand found Kieran's, their fingers intertwining naturally. What happens after? Kieran finally asked. If we succeed, if the information reaches the right people. Zara's gaze turned contemplative. Justice, ideally. Accountability. Change. She squeezed his hand. But systems of power rarely surrender without struggle. There will be denial, then bargaining, then likely violence before acceptance. I meant for us, Kieran clarified softly. The patterns beneath Zara's skin pulsed once, brightening with emotion. That depends on what you want, Kieran Voss. Before he could answer, proximity sensors chimed softly. A small vessel was approaching, sleek and nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Zoril, Zara confirmed, checking her communicator. Relief colored her voice. The meeting was brief and intense. Zoril, a being with crystalline features that caught the light like faceted gems, received the neurological patterns from both Zara and Kieran through a device that seemed to pull the information directly from their minds, leaving them momentarily dizzy. The collective will ensure this reaches every system simultaneously, Zoril assured them, their voice like wind through crystal chimes. Too many channels for them to suppress all at once. They regarded Kieran with interest. A human ally. Unexpected but welcome. More than an ally, Zara said, the luminous patterns beneath her skin forming briefly before fading again. Zoril's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. Nvali? With a human. They studied Kieran more intently. Most interesting. The universe continues to evolve in unexpected ways. After Zoril departed, Kieran and Zara returned to their vessel, setting course away from Meridian Prime toward neutral space. Within hours, the information would begin spreading across interstellar networks, exposing centuries of exploitation and cruelty. It's done, Zara said softly as the stars streaked past their viewport. Seren's final mission is complete. The silver circlet she had worn since her arrival at Helios 12 now lay in her palm. With gentle deliberation, she placed it in a small compartment that would eject it into space. A traditional release of morning buns. Kieran watched as the tiny object disappeared among the stars. What now? He asked again. Zara turned to him, her luminous eyes reflecting the starlight. Now we have choices, Kieran Voss. We have exposed the darkness. Perhaps we might explore the light. The patterns beneath her skin began to glow once more, reaching toward him. This time Kieran felt his own body responding naturally, faint luminescence appearing where she touched him without her conscious effort to create the connection. The Nvali has strengthened, she observed with wonder. It's becoming self-sustaining between us. Is that unusual? He asked, watching the patterns dance across his skin. It's unprecedented, she whispered. In all our recorded history, communion with non-Lysithians has required constant conscious effort. Her eyes met his. We are writing a new chapter, you and I. Kieran pulled her into his arms, feeling the now familiar surge of shared sensation as their bodies pressed together. I can think of worse ways to spend the coming years than exploring uncharted territory with you. Years. Zara's voice held a smile. My people live for centuries, Kieran Voss. Then we have time, he murmured against her lips, to discover all the ways beings from different worlds can illuminate each other's lives. As their ship carried them toward an uncertain future, fugitives, perhaps, or pioneers, the luminous connection between them continued to strengthen, visible proof of an invisible truth, that across the vast emptiness of space, the rarest and most precious discovery was not found in asteroids or artifacts, but in the profound resonance between souls brave enough to reach across the void. In the observation lounge of their small vessel, as Zara initiated another communion that sent patterns of light dancing across their entwined forms, Kieran realized that his years of solitude had not been wasted time but necessary preparation. A long night that made this dawn of connection all the more brilliant. Together they charted a course into uncharted space, their shared light casting shadows that would eventually fade, but leaving echoes that would resonate among the stars for generations to come.